Whatever you are doing right now, slow your breath. Still your thoughts, because this moment is not an accident. You did not arrive here by chance. And this message is not drifting through time looking for anyone else. It has been waiting for you for 2 hours in the realm you cannot see. God has been waiting to speak, waiting for your attention, waiting for the moment when your heart would finally grow quiet enough to hear what has already been prepared. You may think this is just another message, another voice among many, but something within you knows better. Something within you recognizes the weight of this moment. And something within you has been restless, unsettled, searching, and now it is leaning forward. Because God does not wait without purpose. And when God waits, what follows is never small. There are moments when time itself seems to lean in. When the noise of the world fades just enough for truth to rise. This is one of those moments. You have been running in thought, in worry, in responsibility, in regret. You have been carrying questions that never seem to rest. Carrying burdens heavier the longer you pretend they are not there. You have been asking silently, sometimes boldly, sometimes in exhaustion. Where are you? Why now? Why not sooner? And all the while, God has been patient, not absent, not indifferent, but waiting for your heart to open in a way it has not opened before. Understand this clearly. God does not wait because he is unsure. God does not wait because he lacks power. God waits because timing is part of wisdom, and wisdom is not rushed. You see the pain of delay, but God sees the protection of preparation. You see the ache of unanswered questions, but God sees the shaping of your inner strength. You see only the moment in front of you, but God sees the full distance of your life. The turns you have not yet taken, the storms you have not yet faced, and the victories you cannot yet imagine. When God waits, he is not withholding. He is aligning. There are things God cannot tell you too early. Not because you are unworthy, but because you were not yet ready to carry the weight of the truth. There are answers that would have crushed you before, directions that would have confused you, revelations that would have overwhelmed you. So God waited not to punish you, not to ignore you, but to protect you from receiving what you were not yet able to steward. Waiting is not rejection. Waiting is refinement. Waiting is God shaping your capacity so that when the word finally arrives, it does not fall on shallow ground, but on a heart deep enough to hold it. You have been interpreting silence as absence, and that misunderstanding has drained your strength. Silence does not mean God has stopped working. Silence often means God is working so deeply that the surface cannot yet show it. Beneath what you see, beneath what you feel, beneath what you understand, something has been forming. Your endurance has been stretching. Your discernment has been sharpening. Your dependence on things that cannot sustain you has been weakening. God has been removing the false supports so that when the truth comes, you will lean fully on what is eternal. Do not underestimate the power of these past 2 hours. You may measure time by clocks, but God measures time by readiness. In what felt like waiting, something in you shifted. In what felt like delay, something in you softened. In what felt like nothing happening, your spirit was being positioned. God does not waste moments. God does not overlook hunger. God does not ignore those who keep seeking even when they are tired. The fact that you are here now is evidence that the waiting has done its work. There are words that God has been holding back until this very point. Because now you can hear them without twisting them through fear. Now you can receive them without filtering them through past disappointment. Now you can listen without immediately arguing with them in your mind. God is about to speak into areas you have guarded, areas you have locked away, areas you have convinced yourself will never change. Not to condemn you, but to call you forward. Not to shame you, but to remind you of what you lack. But to reveal what has been growing quietly within you all along. You have been defining yourself by what did not happen, by doors that close, by efforts that seem to fail. God is redefining you by what is being prepared. You see delay, God sees distraction. You see lost time. God sees gathered strength, you see weakness. God sees humility, and humility is a doorway to power that pride can never enter. There is a reason your path has not looked like others. There is a reason your progress has been slower, deeper, more costly. God has been crafting something in you that cannot be rushed without being ruined. Hear this carefully. God has not been waiting to scold you. God has been waiting to entrust you. There is a difference. Scolding comes from frustration, and trusting comes from confidence. God's confidence in you has been growing even when your confidence in yourself has been fading. You questioned your worth, your direction, your purpose. But God has been watching how you respond when no one applauds, how you endure when answers do not come quickly, how you keep seeking even when certainty is absent. Those moments have been speaking louder than any declaration you could make with words. You have asked for clarity, and clarity is coming, but clarity does not always arrive as a full map. Sometimes clarity arrives as the next step, illuminated just enough for obedience. God is not interested in overwhelming you with information. God is interested in building trust. Trust is formed when you move forward without seeing everything. When you choose faith over familiarity, when you release control and accept guidance that challenges your comfort. God has been waiting for the moment when you would stop demanding full explanations and start embracing faithful movement. There is a shift happening now, subtle but significant. The heaviness you have been carrying is beginning to loosen its grip. Not because your circumstances have suddenly changed, but because your perspective is being lifted. You are beginning to see that your worth was never tied to speed, to approval, or to visible success. Your worth has always been rooted in being seen, known, and called by God. When that truth settles into your spirit, the pressure to prove yourself begins to fade. And in its place rises a quiet strength that does not need constant validation. God has been waiting to tell you that you are not late. You have felt behind, outpaced, overshadowed. But in the timeline that matters most, you are exactly where you need to be. You are not delayed. You are positioned. You are not forgotten. You are focused. You are not overlooked. You are being observed with care. Comparison has been draining your joy because it was never meant to be your compass. God does not measure your life against others. God measures your life against purpose, and purpose unfolds according to design, not pressure. There are decisions ahead of you that will require courage, not impulse. God has been weighing you that hesitation has taught you discernment, and discernment will now protect you. You will no longer move simply because you feel rushed or afraid of missing out. You will move because you are aligned. You will speak because you are prompted. You will wait because you are guided. The days of frantic striving are giving way to intentional action. And that shift will change not only what you do, but how you experience peace along the way. Do not fear the quiet voice that follows this moment. God does not always speak in overwhelming force. Sometimes the most powerful direction arrives gently, firmly, unmistakably settling into your awareness like truth that has always been there waiting to be acknowledged. When you sense that inner clarity, do not dismiss it. Do not overanalyze it. Receive it with humility and act on it with faith. Obedience does not require noise. It requires trust. You in holding on to certain expectations that God is now asking you to release, not because they were wrong, but because they were too small. You limited what was possible based on what was familiar. And God has been expanding your vision beyond what you have experienced. Expansion can feel uncomfortable. It stretches identity, challenges habits, disrupts routines, but growth has never been comfortable, and comfort has none ever been the goal. God has been waiting to tell you that what feels like disruption is actually redirection. The fear you have felt is not a sign that you are moving away from purpose. It is often a sign that you are approaching it. Fear surfaces when no boundaries are about to be crossed, when familiar limitations are about to be dismantled. God has not given you fear to stop you, but to reveal where faith must rise. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move despite it, trusting that guidance will meet you in motion. You have wondered if your prayers have been heard, if your quiet hopes have reached beyond the ceiling of your own thoughts. God has been waiting to tell you that every sincere word has been received, weighed, and woven into a response more comprehensive than you imagined. Answers do not always come in the form we expect, but they always arrive in the form we need. Sometimes the answer is that a change in circumstance, but a change in you that transforms how you walk through that circumstance. Look back not with regret, but with recognition. You see how many times you were sustained when you thought you would collapse. See how many times provision appeared when resources seemed insufficient. See how many times direction emerged at the last possible moment. Those were not coincidences. Those were confirmations. God has been faithful in ways you did not always notice. And that faithfulness is the foundation upon which the next chapter will be built. God has been waiting to tell you that your story is not defined by your lowest moments. Your mistakes did not cancel your calling. Your missteps did not erase your value. Your failures did not exhaust divine patience. Growth is not linear, and transformation is rarely immediate. God works with persistence, with mercy, with an understanding of your humanity that far exceeds your own. What matters is not that you stumbled, but that you continued to seek, continued to listen, continued to rise. There is a strength emerging in you that does not announce itself loudly. It does not need constant affirmation. It does not rely on external approval. It is rooted, steady, resilient. This strength was forged in waiting in uncertainty in seasons where faith had to exist without visible reward. God has been waiting to tell you that this kind of strength will carry you further than talent alone ever could. As you move forward from this moment, you will notice a difference in how you respond to pressure. What once triggered panic will now invite pause. What once you react will now prompt reflection. This is not weakness. This is maturity. God has been shaping your inner world so that your outer actions can align with wisdom rather than impulse. Decisions made from stillness carry a power that decisions made from fear never will. Do not rush to share everything you receive here. Some truths are meant to live before they are spoken. Some instructions are meant to be embodied quietly, consistently without the need for announcement. God has been waiting to tell you that discernment includes knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Not every seed grows in public view, but every seed needs time underground. You are entering a season where your values will be tested, not by obvious opposition, but by subtle compromise. God has been waiting to tell you that integrity will be your safeguard. Choosing what is right over what is easy will not always bring immediate reward, but it will build a foundation that cannot be shaken. Shortcuts may promise speed, but they often lead to detours. Faithfulness may seem slow, but it leads directly to purpose. There will be moments ahead when you will be tempted to doubt what you sensed here, to question whether it was real, to minimize its significance. In those moments, remember that truth that loses its power simply because circumstances fluctuate. Hold on to what was planted, not with tension, but with trust. God has been weighing you that perseverance is not about forcing outcomes, but about remaining aligned, even when progress feels invisible. Your life is not an accumulation of random events. It is a narrative unfolding with intention. Every delay, every challenge, every unexpected turn has been shaping your capacity to carry what is next. God has been waiting to tell you that you are stronger than you think, wiser than you realize, and more prepared than you feel. Readiness is often recognized only in hindsight, but trust allows you to move forward before certainty arrives. As you continue, you will notice that some relationships shift. This is not loss. It is alignment. Not everyone can walk with you into the next season. Not because they are wrong, but because paths diverge. God has been waiting to tell you that release can be an act of faith and letting go can be a form of obedience. Make room for what aligns with where you are being led. The waiting has refined your listening. You are more attuned now, more aware of subtle guidance, more sensitive to inner conviction. This is not accidental. God has been training your perception so that you can navigate complexity without losing direction. In a world whose clarity is a gift, and you are learning how to receive it. Do not measure what is coming by the standards of what has been. God has been waiting, needing to tell you that new seasons require new expectations. What sustained you before may not sustain you now. What motivated you before may no longer be sufficient. Allow your understanding to expand. Allow your goals to mature. Allow your faith to deepen beyond what is comfortable. There is a calm authority growing in you, not rooted in control, but in trust. This authority does not need to dominate. It influences by presence alone. God has been waiting to tell you that when you walk in alignment, your life becomes a testimony without words. Others will sense the difference not because you announce it, but because peace has a way of revealing itself. As you integrate what you have received, remember that faith is not a single moment, but a continual posture. Return to stillness often. Create space for listening. Honor the guidance you receive through consistent action. God has been waiting to tell you that small, faithful steps accumulate into significant transformation. Even not alone in this journey. Even when the path feels solitary, guidance remains constant. Even when understanding lags behind obedience, support does not withdraw. God has been waiting to tell you that presence does not depend on your awareness of it. You are held, guided, and seen even in moments when you feel uncertain. Let what settles in you now shape how you move forward. Let it inform your choices, your pace, your priorities. You do not need to rush to arrive. You need to remain aligned as you walk. God has been waiting to tell you that alignment matters more than speed, and faithfulness matters more than recognition. Carry this not as a memory, but as a foundation. Allow it to steady you when questions arise. Allow it to remind you that waiting was not wasted. That silence was not empty. That delay was not denial. God has been waiting to tell you that what unfolds Next, we'll make sense of what came before, and that every step you take from here can be taken with quiet confidence, grounded trust, and a heart that knows it has been guided all along. There is something God is pressing into your awareness now, something that cannot be carried by surface-level belief. It requires depth. It requires a heart that has been stretched by waiting and softened by surrender. God is not interested in momentary inspiration that fades when pressure returns. God is shaping a conviction within you that remains steady when circumstances shift. This conviction does not shout. It anchors. It does not demand attention. It commands endurance. It is the kind of inner certainty that allows you to stand when others retreat, to remain faithful when outcomes are unclear, to trust even when emotions fluctuate. You have learned, perhaps painfully, that enthusiasm alone cannot sustain purpose. Passion rises quickly, but it also fades quickly when it is not rooted. God has been waiting to tell you that roots matter more than speed. What grows slowly grows strong. What is established beneath the surface withstands storms that uproot shallow things. Your waiting has driven your roots deeper, not into circumstance, not into people, but into trust. That depth will now become your stability. There is a difference between believing God can act and believing God is acting now even when you cannot see it. God has been leading you from expectation into trust. Expectation looks for visible signs. Trust rests in unseen work. Expectation asks for proof. Trust moves with assurance. This transition has been subtle, sometimes uncomfortable, but it is essential. God is not buoying a life dependent on constant reassurance. God is cultivating a heart that moves forward with quiet confidence. You have been tested in private long before you will ever be affirmed in public. God has been waiting to tell you that what happens when no one is watching matters more than what happens when others applaud. Integrity formed in secrecy becomes authority expressed openly. Faithfulness practiced in obscurity becomes influence when visibility arrives. Do not despise the unseen seasons. They are where strength is forged without distraction. There is an invitation before you now. Not to do more, but to be more aligned. God is not asking you to exhaust yourself with effort. God is asking you to move with intention. When effort is aligned with guidance, it multiplies. When effort is driven by fear, it drains. You are learning the difference. You are becoming sensitive to the quiet resistance that signals misalignment and the steady peace that confirms direction. God has been weighing you that rest is not the absence of movement. It is movement without anxiety. You can move forward without panic. You can act without striving. You can commit without losing peace. This is not passivity. This is maturity. You are stepping into a rhythm where action flows from trust rather than tension. The questions you once asked with desperation are now transforming into reflections. Ask with wisdom. You are no longer begging for answers. You are listening for guidance. That shift marks growth. God has been waiting to tell you that desperation narrows vision, but trust expands it. As your trust deepens, your perception widens. You begin to see connections where you once saw chaos, purpose where you once saw delay. There will be moments when you're tempted to return to old patterns of control, to manage outcomes, to force clarity. In those moments, remember how far you have come. Remember how waiting refined you. God has been waiting to tell you that control is often a response to fear, but trust is a response to truth. You do not need to grasp what is already being guided. You are learning that faith is not fragile. It does not shatter under questioning. It strengthens through it. God has not been threatened by your doubts. God has used them to deepen your understanding. Honest, questioning has stripped away assumptions and left you with something more resilient. Conviction rooted in experience, not borrowed certainty. As you continue, you will find that your language changes. Complaints give way to discernment. Impulses give way to reflection. Reactions give way to responses. God has been waiting that transformation often reveals itself first in how you speak, then in how you choose, and finally in how you live. There is a weight to the awareness you are carrying now. But it is not a burden. It is responsibility. Responsibility to steward what you have been given with care. Responsibility to act with integrity when opportunities arise. Responsibility to remain grounded when recognition comes. God has been waiting to tell you that responsibility is a sign of trust, not pressure. You are being prepared to navigate complexity without losing simplicity. The simplicity of trust, the simplicity of obedience, the simplicity of aligning each step with guidance rather than fear. God has been waiting to tell you that complexity does not require complication. It requires clarity of purpose. You may not feel dramatic change, but you will notice insistent steadiness. You will notice resilience where fragility once existed. You will notice patience where urgency once ruled. These are not small shifts. They are indicators of deep transformation. God works from the inside out, reshaping foundations before altering structures. As you walk forward, remain attentive, but not anxious, open but not impulsive, confident but not rigid. God has been waiting to tell you that flexibility, rooted in faith, allows you to adapt without losing direction. Rigidity resists growth, but grounded openness welcomes it. There is more unfolding than you can currently perceive. Not because it is hidden from you, but because timing governs revelation. Trust the pace. Honor the process. Continue listening. Continue moving. Continue aligning. God's guidance does not expire, and your journey is still unfolding, shaped by patience, strengthened by waiting, and carried forward by a trust that has been quietly, steadily growing. There is a sacred tension you are learning to live within now, a balance between surrender and responsibility. God is not calling you to disappear into passivity, nor to dominate life through force. God is inviting you into cooperation, where listening shapes action and humility strengthens authority. This is the space where wisdom operates. This is where your will aligns with divine intention. Not through coercion, but through consent. When you move from this place, your steps carry weight because they are not rushed, and your words carry power because they are not empty. You are this world of certainty. Does not always arrive as confidence in yourself, but as confidence in guidance beyond yourself. God has been waiting to tell you that self-reliance can only carry you so far, but trust carries you beyond your limits. This is not about diminishing your ability. It is about anchoring it. Ability, wit, how direction exhausts itself. Ability guided by God multiplies beyond expectation. There are moments ahead when you will stand at crossroads that look ordinary to others but feel heavy to you. Choices that seem small on the surface will carry deep consequence beneath. God has been waiting to tell you that discernment sharpens through attentiveness, not urgency. You do not need to decide everything quickly. You need to decide faithfully. Time spent listening is never wasted. Even when the world insists on speed, your past has trained you to anticipate disappointment, to brace for loss even in moments of hope. God is gently dismantling that posture, not by denying reality, but by reshaping expectation. Expectation rooted in fear prepares for disappointment. Expectation rooted in trust prepares for growth. You are learning to hope demanding outcomes, to move forward without rehearsing failure. God has been waiting to tell you that resilience is not the ability to endure endlessly, but the wisdom to renew consistently. You are not meant to survive on yesterday's strength. Renewal is available not as an occasional rescue, but as a continual exchange, letting go of what drains you and receiving what sustains you. This exchange requires honesty. It requires acknowledging fatigue without shame and seeking restoration without delay. There is a clarity forming within you that does not depend on circumstances, aligning perfectly. Even when conditions are uncertain, direction remains steady. God has been waiting to tell you that clarity is often internal before it becomes external. When your inner alignment is secure, external confusion loses its power to derail you. You are beginning to understand that purpose is not always revealed as a grand vision, but as faithful consistency. God is less concerned with dramatic declarations and more attentive to daily alignment. The way you choose integrity when no one benefits you. The way you remain patient when progress feels slow. The way you act with compassion even when it costs you. These are not side notes. They are the substance of a life aligned with God. There will be resistance. Not always loud. Not always obvious. Sometimes it will come disguised as comfort, as distraction, as reasonable compromise. God has been waiting to tell you that not every open door leads forward, and not every closed door is denial. Discernment is learning to recognize the difference between opportunity and alignment. Your heart has grown quieter, not because it has lost passion, because it has gained focus. God has been waiting to tell you that focused passion is far more powerful than scattered intensity. When energy is aligned with purpose, it sustains rather than consumes. You are learning to invest yourself where it matters rather than expending yourself everywhere. There is a humility settling into your strength. Now you no longer need to prove your worth through comparison or performance. God has been waiting to tell you that humility is not weakness. It is clarity about source. When you know where your strength comes from, you do not fear acknowledging limitations. Limitations become invitations for guidance rather than obstacles to hide. You are becoming more patient with yourself. And this patience is not indulgence. It is wisdom. Growth does not respond well to harshness. God has been waiting to tell you that transformation thrives in environments of truth and grace. You can confront what needs to change without condemning who you are becoming. As your awareness deepens, you will notice how often guidance arrives through subtle conviction rather than dramatic intervention. God does not always interrupt. Sometimes God nudges. Pay attention to what consistently draws you toward integrity, peace, and alignment. These quiet signals are not random. They are forms of communication refined for those willing to listen. There is an authority forming in your life that does not rely on position or recognition. It flows from alignment. When your actions reflect trust, your presence carries credibility. God has been waiting to tell you that authority rooted in alignment influences without force. It persuades through consistency and steadiness rather than volume. You may still encounter moments of doubt, but doubt no longer defines you. It visits, but it does not stay. God has been waiting to tell you that doubt is not the enemy of faith. Stagnation as movement with questions is far more powerful than stillness without them. Continue moving. Continue listening. Continue aligning. The season ahead will invite you to live what you have learned, not explain it. God has been waiting to tell you that embodiment precedes explanation. When truth is lived, it requires fewer words. Let your decisions reflect what has been formed within you. Let your pace reflect trust. Let your responses reflect discernment. What you are stepping into does not demand perfection, but presence, awareness, willingness. God has been waiting to tell you that availability matters more than mastery. Guidance meets those who are open, not those who believe they have arrived. Remain teachable. Remain attentive. Remain grounded. The unfolding continues, not as a rush toward resolution, but as a steady movement into alignment where each step builds upon the last, and the voice you are learning to recognize becomes clearer as you continue to walk forward in trust, awareness, and quiet confidence without needing everything to be finished or fully explained. Yet there is a refinement happening in how you understand strength. You once believed strength meant pushing through without pause, enduring without expression, carrying weight without rest. God is redefining that for you. True strength is not found in denial, but in discernment. It is knowing when to press forward and when to stand still, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to give and when to receive. God has been waiting to tell you that wisdom conserves strength while pride wastes it. You are learning that alignment does not remove challenges. It gives you the posture to face them without losing yourself. Difficulty no longer feels like punishment, but instruction. Resistance no longer feels like rejection, but refinement. God has been waiting to tell you that opposition often clarifies purpose. What challenges you expose is what matters. What resists you reveals what must be strengthened. You are not being opposed to stop you. You are being shaped to sustain what is coming. There is a courage forming in you that is not loud or reckless. It is steady. It is thoughtful. It does not rush into danger to prove itself, nor does it retreat at the first sign of discomfort. God has been waiting to tell you that this kind of courage is born from trust, not adrenaline. It chooses faith over impulse and conviction over convenience. This courage will carry you through moments when enthusiasm fades and only commitment remains. You are becoming more attentive to the condition of your inner world. You've not yet met. You're recognizing that what you allow to dwell in your thoughts shapes how you move through your days. God has been waiting to tell you that guarding your inner space is not withdrawal. It is stewardship. Not every thought deserves your agreement. Not every voice deserves your attention. Discernment begins with choosing what you allow to influence you. As you mature, clarity often requires subtraction before addition. God has been waiting to tell you that letting go is not failure. It is focus. Release what distracts you from alignment. Release what feeds anxiety rather than trust. Release what demands constant reassurance. Space created through release becomes room for guidance to settle and direction to take form. There will be times when obedience feels costly, when choosing alignment requires you to walk away from what is familiar or comfortable. God has been waiting to tell you that cost is not a sign of loss. It is evidence of value. What costs you something shakes you deeply. What requires sacrifice anchors commitment. Ease rarely produces depth, but faithfulness under cost produces endurance. You are also learning that gentleness is not the opposite of strength. God has been waiting to tell you that gentleness guided by truth is one of the most powerful forces you can carry. It disarms conflict, steadies fear, and opens doors that force never could. When your strength is guided by compassion, your influence reaches further than authority alone. There is an increasing awareness within you that your life is interconnected with others in ways you cannot fully see. Your choices ripple outward. Your integrity strengthens more than just you. God has been waiting to tell you that faithfulness is never isolated. Even when your obedience feels unseen, it contributes to a larger tapestry of purpose beyond your immediate view. You will notice that patience now feels different. It is no longer passive waiting, but active trust. You are no longer counting days. You are cultivating readiness. God has been waiting to tell you that readiness is not about having all the answers, but about being moved when guidance comes. Prepared hearts respond quickly because they have been listening all along. There may be moments when you feel the weight of responsibility pressing in. When you sense that what you are carrying matters in those moments, remember that God does not place weight without providing balance. Guidance accompanies responsibility. Strength accompanies calling. You are not being asked to carry what you were not shaped to bear. Your perception of success is also being refined. God has been waiting to tell you that success is not measured by visibility, speed, or applause, but by alignment, integrity, and endurance. A life lit in truth leaves a mark even when it is not celebrated. Impact is not always immediate, but it is always meaningful when rooted in faithfulness. You are beginning to sense when something is out of alignment, not through fear, but through a quiet unease that invites reflection. God has been waiting to tell you that this sensitivity is not weakness. It is guidance. Honor it. Pause when it arises. It is often the signal that adjustment is needed before movement continues. As you walk forward, you will encounter moments that require forgiveness. Not because others deserve it, but because holding on to resentment drains clarity. God has been waiting to tell you that forgiveness is not approval. It is release. It frees you from carrying weight that was never meant to be yours. A clear heart listens more easily. Your faith is becoming less reactive and more responsive. You no longer move based solely on emotion or urgency. You move with awareness. God has been waiting to tell you that this responsiveness is the mark of maturity. It allows you to adapt without losing direction, to respond without surrendering conviction. What is unfolding in you now will continue to reveal itself through consistency rather than spectacle. Day by day alignment, choice by choice integrity. God has been waiting to tell you that the quiet accumulation of faithful decisions builds a life that can withstand pressure and remain steady when others falter. Stay attentive, stay grounded, stay willing. What you are living into now is not the end of waiting, but the fruit of it. And as you continue forward, the voice you have learned to recognize will remain near, guiding not through force, but through truth that resonates deeply, steadily, unmistakably within you. Now let this moment settle into you not as emotion alone, but as resolve. Do not let these words pass through you without response. Truth word without action fades, but truth embraced reshapes a life. God has brought you here not to comfort you in stagnation, but to awaken you to alignment. Look honestly at where you are standing. Examine the direction of your steps, the posture of your heart, the source of your confidence. Ask yourself whether your life reflects trust or fear, alignment or habit, surrender or control. This is not a moment for condemnation, but for courage. God is inviting you to rise not above others, but above old limitations. Rise above the version of yourself shaped by doubt, by delay, by disappointment. Rise into the self formed through waiting, refined through patience, strengthened through trust. Let go of what no longer aligns, even if it once felt necessary. Release what drains clarity, even if it feels familiar. Choose integrity over ease. Choose obedience over impulse. Choose trust over urgency. These choices may feel quiet, but they are powerful. Do not wait for a perfect moment to begin living what you now know. Begin where you are with the next decision, with the next response, with the next act of faithfulness. God is not asking you to transform everything at once, but to walk intentionally, step by step, with awareness and humility. Each aligned step matters. Each honest surrender matters. Each moment of trust matters more than you realize. Let your life become a reflection of what you believe. Let your actions speak before your words. Let your peace stand firm even when circumstances fluctuate. Walk forward with a heart that listens, a spirit that remains teachable, and a resolve that does not retreat when the path narrows. God is near to those who seek with sincerity, who walk with humility, who choose alignment even when it costs them comfort. Carry this truth with you. You are not walking alone. You are not moving without guidance, and you are not living without purpose. God has been patient with you, faithful to you, and present through every unseen moment. Now walk with quiet confidence. Stand with steady faith. Let your life testify not through noise, but through depth, integrity, and trust. And in God, guided by God, and fully alive in the purpose God has placed within